Megamaniacs, this is Mr. MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know all the things to do. This is another PSA, and this goes out to both current and future content creators. Because some of you watching this channel may have aspirations of making videos for YouTube yourself. And I want to warn you about something that continues to happen to small content creators and something you should look out for if you hope to be monetized. And it's a little easier to show you and then explain as opposed to just explaining without any evidence of what's going on. So I'm going to pick up the camera and flip it around and let you see what I'm talking about. Now what we have here is what I would call a copyright troll. That's because this song that they are claiming, Lord, You Are Everything to Me for, is not a real song. If you look up this song and play it back, it's a bunch of random discordant computer sounds, and then all of a sudden, about, I don't know, half minute, a minute into it, suddenly you hear the background music from the iMovie editor that you can use on MacBooks and iPhones, and it's called Neon. They just inserted Apple's own background music into their clip so they could get copyright matches on other people's videos. Every time I've disputed this claim, they've let it expire and haven't fought back, which means they know they have no more claim to the background music than anybody other than Apple. And Apple doesn't go after people for putting up videos with generic background music from their iMovie editing suite. That's just not a thing they do. But unfortunately, YouTube doesn't seem to be willing to do anything about it, because this Sonos suite, on behalf of EA Records, it's clearly profitable to them to continue to go after small channels, hope they won't dispute it, and take whatever revenue they would have earned from YouTube and make it their own. So my first advice to you is, unfortunately, don't use Neon from the iMovie suite. If you're going to put background music in your videos, either make it your own, get some that's royalty free from a public domain source, or just have no music at all, but don't use Neon because they're going to claim it. And then unfortunately, if they do claim it with this phony song, Lord, You Are Everything to Me for, you're going to have to dispute it. And every time you do, you're going to have to wait 30 days. So you're probably going to want to create a new video without the iMovie background music in it. You're going to want to either mute it using YouTube's own function, or you're going to want to download your video and select that portion of it and mute the audio from that portion that they claim. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait 30 days to get your video back, because again, this Sonos suite will just let the dispute expire. They won't challenge it. They're not looking to prove that they own it, because they don't. They're just hoping that people don't challenge it. So they don't even try to fight back when you dispute the claim. This is something to look out for if you're a small content creator and you've just gotten monetized. They will see this as their opportunity to find every matching instance of the Neon music from iMovie and try to claim it in your videos. So avoid using Neon. If you get a claim, dispute it, and in the meantime, probably just edit your video and upload it again without the music. Even if you lose some of your voiceover or narration, it's the only way to keep your video monetized until the dispute expires. And now for something a little more fun than YouTube drama. I picked up some games from Ben's Game Zone the other day, and I hadn't fired up my PlayStation 3 in a while, so first things first, I wanted to make sure that everything on the PS3 was copacetic and then test the games that I picked up. He had gotten in a bunch, and I do mean a bunch, of PlayStation 3 games. He calls them lids because he puts all the games that he got into the lids of storage boxes and then puts the lids out on the counter for everybody to look at. And I saw some games that I definitely wanted to pick up, but have to make sure that everything on the PS3 is ready to go so that I can test the games that I bought. And to do that, why not use a classic, The Misadventures of Tron Bonne? Because, as it turned out, a few years ago on the PlayStation Store, this game was on sale for just a few bucks. And I know they've made it hard to add credit to an account or purchase anything on the PS3, but this was certainly an affordable way to pick up the game compared to the prices that a physical copy goes for. So if you really want to play The Misadventures of Tron Bonne and you can find a way to add credit to your account, you might want to look and see if it's still available on the PlayStation Store, because that's going to be a lot cheaper than buying it physically. Obviously, everything is good to go here, so we can proceed with the testing. I picked up 8 PS3 games in total, starting with LA Noire. As Ben said himself, this is a game I've been meaning to play for a while but never got around to. And my response was, I think it's a pretty good game because they've remade it a few times now, so it's got to be worth picking up. And there were plenty of copies in the lid. There were at least a half dozen, so it's not like it's a game that's in short supply. Rockstar Games obviously sold a lot of copies of LA Noire, and this is actually my first time playing it as well, so I don't know any more about the game than Ben did, other than people have said, well, there have been mixed reviews. Some people have said good things, other people have said Rockstar phoned it in. I also picked up Metal Gear Solid, the HD collection, which is something I'd had my eye on, looked at it on eBay several times, but never pulled the trigger. And finally, it got to the point where I just couldn't resist anymore and had to pick it up. As Wikipedia themselves say, this was released for PS3 and Xbox 360 in 2011 and the PlayStation Vita in 2012, and it includes Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, plus Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. Now, that name might confuse you into thinking it's a remake of the original Metal Gear Solid from PlayStation, but it is most definitely not. Hey, I'm installing an update now, and another one, and one more, and another, and another, and another. Hey, now, I'm installing the update. It's not really that great. In fact, it sucks balls.
Tango wants to sing with you.
He can sing along to my weary song as I install this freaking update. Date. Tango, you're the master of song. Why don't you sing along to the update? And now a dog's barking. Hark, I'm not skylarking. It's a freaking update that sucks great, but at least it's almost halfway done. And in case you're wondering, that was me losing my mind trying to install Metal Gear Solid 5 on the PS3 because it took over an hour. It made me download a version update. It made me update the system software of the PS3 itself. Then it made me download more updates from the PlayStation Store, specifically to support the online features of Metal Gear Solid 5. So if you don't intend to play online, you can probably skip that part. It's another 870 and another 130 megabyte update after that. It's an update and then another update. So I did at least 4 updates to get Metal Gear Solid 5 running on the PS3. Thankfully, nothing else out of the 8 PS3 games that I bought had nearly that many updates or took that long to install them. In fact, I think the Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing update was less than a minute tops to install and download. It zipped by pretty quick, no pun intended. And Sonic's Ultimate Genesis Collection was even smaller than that. And this is one that if you don't have it on Xbox or PS3, you should go out of your way to pick it up because it has Sonic 3, which up until the Sonic Ultimate Collection, Legacy Collection, whatever they're calling that new console edition, was the only way to play Sonic 3 on modern systems in HD. Unless, of course, you have an analog Mega SG and an original copy of Sonic 3. But Sonic 3 didn't get included in a lot of compilations, including the Sega Genesis collection that they made for Switch, Xbox One, and PS4. They left Sonic 3 out for whatever reason. Speaking of Sonic games, though, here's another one that I tested. Another one with Cryware, and it's Sonic 2006. This was the only one that had no updates. I'm going to assume that once Sega released this infamous game, they just decided, we're done with it. We're not supporting it any further. We got it out the door. That's good enough for us. Can I blame them? Well, if you've never watched Game Grumps play Sonic 2006, then just go do that, and you'll see why they pretty much abandoned that game once they got it out. Sonic Unleashed is a much better game. It's often derided for the ridiculousness of the day-night cycle with the werehog Sonic, but personally, I like it. The music can be a little annoying and repetitive at times, but I think overall it's a good game. It's certainly better than Sonic 2006. And more PS3 games. What else do I have to show you here? Why, it's Tron Evolution. I am a huge fan of the Tron franchise going all the way back to childhood. There was a Laserdisc player at the library that I went to growing up, and they had this, and I watched it repetitively. I would check it out, watch it, return it, check it out again, watch it some more. It's safe to say I was kind of obsessed with the movie. I also picked up 4 PlayStation games, which conveniently enough, PS1 games work on all versions of PS3. Both the original Fat and the Slim model support PS1 games out of the box, so I was able to test these at the same time as the PS3 games. Chess was not something that I thought was super important, like a must-have, but it was cheap and a game that I didn't already own, as was this title here, E.T. The Interplanetary Missions. It kind of looks like shovelware, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's simply a game where E.T. appears to go around collecting plants on different planets. There's not a whole lot to it. It's just a collect-a-thon. But it probably ranks better than this Inspector Gadget Crazy Maze game, because they don't even put any voiceover in these FMV sequences. This was clearly just shovelware licensing at its finest. If you remember when JonTron did the Home Alone game that was only released in Europe, this feels very much like that. They just slapped a license on a game where you move around a maze doing things for no other reason than it has a license and we want to exploit the IP. We bought it for as low as we could, and we're milking as much money as we can from it by putting these characters into this generic format game where you run around a maze, picking up stuff, pushing stuff, or moving stuff. Then there's Largo Winch, which apparently is a real franchise that aired on television. I don't remember it. Do any of you? I don't think I ever watched anything called Largo Winch, but the name Largo Winch intrigued me. And again, it was a relatively inexpensive PlayStation title. Some of the ones that I was looking at that I didn't have were like 40, 50, 60 bucks. I didn't feel like spending that kind of money for PlayStation games that I may or may not enjoy. I was looking for budget PlayStation titles, and in all 4 of these cases, they were under $10, and that was good enough for me. And I've got a few Super Nintendo games that I need to test as well. 2 that come from Ben's Game Zone, 2 that come from Pop Culture. This is one of the ones from Pop Culture. It's Aquabats in the Super Aquatic Games. This one was reviewed on CGR, and they were not impressed by it, other than perhaps the fact that James Pond is one of the playable characters. But I'll give it a fair chance once I'm done testing all of this stuff. The other game I picked up from Pop Culture that I have to test is Pga Tour 96, and it had a really bad looking shell that somebody had used a knife to carve letters into. But as you can see, the game itself works just fine, so the condition of the outer shell is not that important compared to having a working game. The nice thing about collecting sports games for retro consoles is they tend to be a lot cheaper than the arcade counterparts, the RPGs, the shooters. But then the downside is they're sports games and they can get boring over time. Rampart, on the other hand, is a game that I never seem to get bored with. I wouldn't consider myself the most proficient Rampart player there ever has been, but anytime this game is on a compilation of Atari games, I usually end up playing it for at least a half hour at a time before I move on to something else, because there's just something fundamentally addictive to me about a game that combines warfare strategy with almost Sim City. Like, you're building things, except you're not building roads and power grids and hospitals. You're building walls around your castle, trying to protect it from an invasion, and also so you can place more cannons to defend yourself. And you get more points for expanding your territory and defending your territory. So I quite enjoy Rampart. I'm not, like I said, I'm no pro at it. I wouldn't set a high score or a speed record for the fastest time to victory, but it's certainly one that I enjoy the challenge of, when it gives you those random pieces and you have to use them to rebuild your fort and expand your territory. And there's multiplayer options as well, so if you don't like playing against the computer, you can play against a friend and see who gets the best result in protecting and defending their fort. Rampart is something I highly recommend. If you've never seen it before, watch a video review of it, and I think you might be sold on it as well. The last one I recommend is Total Carnage. Rampart and Total Carnage were both pickups from Ben's, and Total Carnage basically takes the engine from Smash TV and turns it into a warfare game. You'll notice the similarities in the voiceover and the gameplay style right away, but you're not confined to one arena. You can move around the screen and the screen scrolls. I'm Mr. MegaManFan. This has been my PSA and my pickups, and as always, thank you for watching.